So AI is a topic that everyone is talking about, from the technology teams to lines of business to certainly the board of directors. I would classify AI as really two types. One is generative AI, which has been all the buzz for the past 15, 18 months, as well as predictive AI, which banks have been using for probably decades. Um, the generative AI is the one that's probably generating the most amount of interest, certainly recently. And that's an area where banks are thinking about huge productivity improvements for their internal teams, as well as new business models that allow them to grow the top line. So boards of directors are asking the technologists and the lines of business, how can you incorporate AI into the business process? What benefits can we see? What areas do we need to invest in? And what will those investments look like? Key area that people are expecting benefits is productivity. And those productivity improvements will be for your internal employees. In addition, you'll see, it's expected you'll see um, customer service improvements, customer experience improvements. So speaking about productivity, there was a recent Harvard Business School study that showed they broke, let me just back up a second. They broke the teams into multiple cohorts. One cohort was AI infused, another cohort had no access to AI. And what they found was that for some tasks, um, the team with AI was able to complete the task 25% more quickly, as well as at a higher quality level. Really importantly in the study, which I found, was that for those, and they took the cohorts within that sector and said which ones are more performant versus less performant in terms of their current jobs. The average performers saw a 17% improvement, while the less performant cohort saw a 43% improvement, meaning that the people that were less experienced in their jobs saw a bigger boost. So this is really a way that you can take AI and basically incorporate the understanding and the experience of more experienced people, bake it into the AI models, and therefore you're upskilling your more junior employees and having them operate at a higher level. And that's super interesting. We also see that happening in things like Copilot, where programmers have the aid of AI and the experience of AI to make them more productive and develop better code. Teams should start with internal processes. Basically AI infusing internal processes that allow their people to work internally. There is still a risk, and it's a significant risk, of hallucinations. There was an issue with a global airline where they gave out bad advice due to hallucinations of the AI, and everyone is afraid of those types of downward effects. So people are using the AI. They're using responsible AI. They are putting guardrails on these things. And that means that they're taking a percentage of the advice that the AI is giving and then running it through people to look at it, to say, yes, this is right. No, this is incorrect. And then allowing AI to do some tasks, but not other tasks. And again, back to that Harvard study, they found that AI was great for some tasks, but not all tasks. So it's important to understand what are the limitations today and apply the software for those limited use cases. And then as the models get better, as the training gets better, as the investment increases, you'll start seeing more use cases, but understand what those limits are and work within those limits. Guardrails are super important, especially in highly regulated industries such as banking. So one area that's super important, and there's a lot of regulation around, is data privacy. So when you're training models, for example, what data are you using? For a global bank, they may have data sitting in Korea, in the US, in Canada, in Switzerland. There's significant rules around taking that data outside certain jurisdictions. So how do you train models? How can you use technology such as, say, federated learning to train models with your entire information set, but not move data outside regulatory boundaries? That's one set of guardrails. How do you make sure that your models don't leak information in terms of privacy? That's a significant risk. How do you make sure that the data you're using is not biased? In some cases, the data you may have is biased, or you want to check for different data. So synthetic data is one way where you can use and simulate different data that you may or may not have. And you want to be able to check the results. So don't think that you can just let this thing loose and not, look at 1%, 10%, 5% of the results and have existing people run through it. This is what was asked. This is what the machine said. This is correct. So because of these risk of hallucination, some firms are just pointing these things internally, and that's a great way to put guardrails on your use cases. Use them for internal people. Maybe your relationship managers, maybe your analysts are using it to complement what they're doing, and then over time we'll expand use cases and make it more forward pointing. With a proper set of governance, the guardrails are used today, are appropriate for today. But again, the areas are being invested in so heavily. I think you need to continually reevaluate what you're doing. And then are these guardrails serving your customers, serving the regulation, and serving your shareholders? So I would suggest one of the guardrails should be a consistent periodic look at what are my guardrails, what is my governance model, and understanding is it appropriate or inappropriate for today's technology.